course we have Nina and Aidan to round off the afternoon. So I'm going to read my other poem from the anthology Welling Up, and we have copies on sale. It's £8, another perfect stocking filler, I think. And this is a poem called Ice. It's from the section on climate change. Ice. You're going to make us lonesome when you go, scared and warmer than we want. Penguins, seals and polar bears go first, left without a rink. Won't be long before your water, we can't splash our way out, as waves sweep everything away and we swim over chimney tops. Breasting shoals of cartons escape from old MacDonald. We can't rattle you in our scotch, pack peas and TV dinners in your embrace. A million distractions kept us sleepwalking through the years, deaf to the sound of you cracking up. Too late now for our tears. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome back for another poem, John Sefton.
I only brought two with me, I'm afraid. So.
Ah, okay.
Sorry about that.
Never mind. In that case, not John Sefton, but a man who's always got plenty of poems with him, Mr. Lantern Carrier.
On truth. When the snow falls, it sometimes begins like flakes, drifting in the atmosphere. The wind blows wherever love takes it, carrying these divine messengers of heaven to the pollen, stamen of flowers, the foliage, my stained glass windows. The light flakes kiss my face and hugs me gently, intimately. Their healing effect sometimes exactly what I need in this noisy world of modern consumerism. I am a spark of spirit, no less than the flakes, the stars. Indeed, since I aspire for the highest, then perhaps I'm their master. Still, you would not necessarily know this. Sometimes I'm fragile, vulnerable, susceptible to danger, to being squashed upon like the flakes heralding snow. Truth is often just as delicate, requiring wisdom light to illuminate its path. O lantern, be as wise as Solomon and as gentle as the snow. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, now we have also from the second tranche of open mic poets, he's going to read 3 poems, I think. Yep. Mr. P.R. Murray. I'll go and grab your pint and probably drink it.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I wasn't able to manage that myself.
Well, you want the stool?
No, not really.
Okay.
Try and stand up. I've just realised the 3 poems I'm going to do are in various ways about how human beings see themselves as different from the natural world, even though they're part of it, and how they make the mistake of trying to control it, and how in various ways that often backfires. The first poem is about drugs, and I mean drugs, not medicines. Flicker thumb down, strike flint on steel, make flame. Light the dry leaves, suck the smoke into lungs. Tobacco is a treacherous weed which does not get you high. It just makes you need. So ignite, inhale, repeat 30 times a day for 30 years until eventually, when you unchain yourself from the treacherous weed, you cannot escape free. The cycle-powering lungs that once got you up mountains now won't even let you reach the end of the street unless you often stop to wheeze, pant and cough. And someone in Brazil flicks a thumb down, strikes flint on steel, makes flame, lights the dry leaves, burns the forest, and the whole planet sucks the smoke into its lungs. a couple of ones from this anthology, which I've got a few in there as well as Patrick, and some very other good poets. Some very other good poets. Some other very good poets. Okay, hopefully I'll get the words in the right order in this poem. It's about an animal that escaped from a zoo, and it's called Lilith Leapt the Electric Fence. Lilith leapt the electric fence. Maybe at the time it made sense to pounce, claws extended at a bird in flight, and so fall into freedom by accident. Or maybe she made a deliberate jailbreak, because you've got to do what you've got to do to get out of the zoo, and who knows what a lynx thinks. Briefly, Lilith the lynx got away. She was no longer on display. She was no longer confined to be admired or to be ignored by the curious, the awestruck, or the bored peering through the wire. Perhaps real freedom then kicked in, with no food and drink provided. Out in the woods and fields and hills, to eat she has to hunt and kill. And at first maybe she has an edge, since it must be centuries since any lynx walked and stalked along these thickets and hedges. So maybe some rabbits and mice, or a bird or two, turned just too late and drew their last deaths between the jaws of golden-eyed death. Sadly, hunters can be hunted too, and Lilith could not be left to be free. She was the property of a zoo, and large predators in Britain just cannot be, unless they're members of the bourgeoisie. Uncaught, Lilith caused official fear, alleged to pose a risk severe, so a killing bullet, not a tranquilizing dart, was sent to stop this beauty's heart. But the wheel will turn and justice will be done, and free once more Lilith will run, padding along on larger paws, with stronger, longer, deadlier claws. Reborn a larger, fiercer cat, she'll rip the throats out of bureaucrats. And slightly more gently, although these animals are eaters of flesh, seeing them made me want to become a Parsi actually, but some of you may know what happens to dead Parsis. They're left for these animals to eat. In Spain, at Montfrag, 300 vultures live on a crag. I have seen them with my own eyes, and they have seen me and ignored me. A fat man who gets out of a van and gapes up in awe. Some sit on ledges, some perch on edges, and then let go to fall, spread wings and soar. They may circle and glide, find a thermal to ride, in spirals and gyres, higher and higher and higher, silently curving, intercepting, interlacing in a broad-feathered dance in the sky, over the Tagus Gorge, over the valleys and woods, up ever into pure azure, high above apes with their words.
Thank you, Pete. Some of you may have seen the Attenborough programme last Saturday or Sunday, where there's a nature reserve in southern Spain, and the lynx population has grown there from about 80 to about 700 through careful protection of the animals, so that was good news. Anyway, so now welcome for the first time today, but not for the first time, John Hurley.
So, a few lines on refugees. They're the citizens of God knows where, those stateless stumbling hordes, locked in lorries as if toxic, as they flee from mad warlords, always hoping for stability, yet thirsty roots find barren soil, while bureaucrats keep playing for time as they fill another file. Our homes are marked out territory, ring-fenced we will not share. With our inherent selfishness, do we just pretend we care? We extend a tepid welcome, not seeing ourselves in he or she, yet they bleed when they are cut, just like you and me. Human misery increases, crowds fleeing from the Toten lands. And if there is a God up there, I hope he understands. Recently I went to a very scraunchy wine bar with my daughter. I couldn't afford the prices, but that wine bar, I take you back to 1959, when I knew it as the hop holes, frequented by workers, not wine drinkers. The hop holes, 1959. The clock strikes 11, the doors swing open. Into the pub rush a trusty throng. Some have found the morning endless, and the need for a cure is very strong. Sandra will suit their bad hangovers. She once danced with the Windmill Girls. She must have looked great in a scanty costume. She now wears a dark dress with 3 rows of pearls. The greengrocer's stall out on the pavement. The owner runs his business from the bar. When he's flush with increased takings, he invites us all to have another jar. Fred the baker and the milkman criticise the coach of our local team. They must think that they could do better, but of management they can only dream. Tom speaks of days as a young commando, heroic deeds in days gone by. He will never spoil a story, even if it means a blatant lie. One-legged Jack knows how to order, taps his crutch on the barroom floor. The landlady keeps tabs on his intake, as she may have to see him to his front door. By the fire sits a used car salesman, sips gin and hopes that his look will change. He speaks of Rolls and shiny Bentleys, and he sells old Fords from another range. Sam Street bookie makes an entrance, camel hair coat and his shiny shoes. He puts slips and coins in a large pocket. He smiles and knows they mostly lose. The morning flies, all the drinkers happy. Time slides into the afternoon. The future's bright, though a little hazy, and the 3 o'clock bell comes all too soon. That's snapshot. I get a lot of documents recently for some reason, and I find myself quite confused. It's an age thing, so if you'd bear with me. I call this gobbledygook. I received some legal documents with the salient points obscure. Confusion reigned with the legalese, as my education is quite poor. I am apt to fret and flounder, not knowing where to begin. And the next door neighbour wasn't helpful, saying, throw the bloody things in the bin. Scribes can often be offenders, as they strive to get attention. They must sleep with the thesaurus, with their acquisition and retention. They impart misleading headlines. Does that explain their dropping sales? If long words confuse the masses, the message always fails. Even articles on mundane things, headlines often scream amazing. Then most things are iconic now, mixed with all their pre-cooked phrasing. The president of Tajikistan has put a €90 fine on the words in his daily paper that he cannot define. This is truthful. Irish people are quite happy. They like things said this way. When it's lashing down with rain, they say it's a fine soft day. The Troubles is a euphemism. We gave to a vicious fight, and we called the Civil War the Crossness, till both sides saw the light. We must curb all this verbosity, simplify the words that flow, imprison all spin doctors until repentance I can show.
That'll learn. Thank you very much, John. And now I'd like to welcome, again for the first time today, Julian Mann.
I played the female in a resurrection of right. I am one of the Peplos. My black bile humour, you know, only by my lowland mortuary costume. The Danube has a ring, fluvial, a drop bowl, a Scythian of interpretation. I played the female. My purpose was confluence. The Allegheny at Pittsburgh, the songlines, Eadsburg. Will you strip me before my parish and think to see me disclosed as the lone mound tree? Kimberline, Kimberline, I can sing. Essen, Missen, the Danube has a ring. Cuno among the thorns, I sing my black hours. Thank you. Borrowed a line from T.S. Eliot for this one. Like to an exquisite unheard music he speaks, and words form upon the page newly each time a deeper inkling. And will I find this season next careful dyeing them fresh in new dressings of truth? Harvest of a shower, gust or rain's push, the weather more surreal on a mudline. Hearth is ritual, yew graves an eclipse. The walk between two trees, feel the spirit nudge. The east is spread, pounds black, boughs and yellow, mouthful of sparklers. Smoking something to do when doing nothing. Recognition comes to you. Wait without hope. A bonfire cup. Dazzle the menu board, so much so they had run out. So when we foraged for hazelnuts, I don't know, the maple comes to vision with its bright palms, light remains, a reverence air the picture commands, of a bramble, formless you might say, in this generation's clarity you might say, how can I conceive of this beauty and mischief, dressing up at high elms in the smokeful, like to an exquisite unheard music he speaks. The ground workers in the shade, they're laying as the shadows of banked trees across them. Thanks. I don't want to impose on people the great books. I have some hand-printed books if you're interested.
Yeah.
Come and see
Thank you, Julian Mann.
I love the musicality.
And do put your books on the table. Okay, and our last open mic poet this afternoon, somebody who I've heard many times and always enjoyed, and here and elsewhere, Heather Moulson.
Oh, hello, good to be here again. They're all three new poems, really. From a pamphlet I'm working on. So I'll start with babies. What are these babies all about? They're noisy, talk rubbish, never have any money. I can't see the attraction. Sucking breast dry, toddling round with a finger up their nose, making heirlooms rare. They're a waste of space, only to grow out of ungainly uniforms as they bundle in the school gates, clutching took for show and tell. The sweetness on top of an infant's head, turning to chalk dust and knit ammonia. Cuddly toys replaced by Minecraft. Calls from the headmaster. Star Wars Lego under your feet. Before they rip the clothes off your back and clear out your bank account. Marching off to some obscure university with half of IKEA in their trunk, only to bring back heartbreak. My baby's never going to do that. Thank you. And I've got one here on doors. It was kind of an exercise that was set by someone. So this is doors. I don't want to knock on Dave's door. Whatever do you want me to say to him? Julie, stop hiding behind the bins. He'll know you're there. Our eyes both bloodshot. I've had my own knock at the door. He stood there. I don't want to go out with you anymore. Numbly I watched him cycle off to his paper round. But soon there was a very different kind of knock. Will you marry me? I slammed the door in his face. Bugger off. The doorway becomes a new threshold. Oh, carry me over, I plead, clad in white lace. What? Not with my bloody back. And I think I've made the wrong entrance. Later on, banging on a teenage door, a toxic school report in my hand. I want a word with you, Sonny Jim. When it's my son's turn to exit, my husband goes with him, and I'm all alone, the door shut firmly in my face. Julie did get back with Dave, briefly, from furtive dustbins to that golden doorstep. And yet it's Dave who actually knocks. Now will you marry me? Thank you. Oh, thank you. And this was, I was going to do this for a competition, and then the deadline went, of course. I happily get them ready, but just let the deadline go. And it's about colours, so it was a bit of a challenge, because I reckon you can see colours in the most grimmest of times. And I was amazed at this memory that I came up with. This is Colours 73. Lizzie's wobbly thighs are purple with cold. Limited heating, looming blackouts, everyone seeing red. My true blue mum calls Heath a traitor. What a dim view to take. And speaking of which, Liz says she's asked Paul Watkins to pop in. I go pink. He says there's a new Slade Christmas song we put on top of the pops. On the black and white screen, we can clearly see the colour of Noddy Holder's trousers. Paul, despite his worldliness, confesses that he'd never been to a party before. He got off with Susan Turner. He doesn't know whether to ask her out. Despite kissing her for hours to Python Lee Jackson, she still doesn't set him on fire. What's the point of all that smooching and love bites and snogging if he's not going to come to anything? And I wonder what colour Susan's face is now. I know mine's turning green. We give Slade a lukewarm reception. That record will never catch on. Thank you very much.
you, all you lovely open mic poets. And now we return to our featured poets. So welcome back.